Cindy, true confession time. I think I'm a really good teacher, but I have this sense that my lessons are kind of boring. So
Mm.
what can I do about that?
I'm sure you're a great teacher. You love to learn. I bet you put a lot of preparation time into your teaching, but if you want your students to remember, if you want it to like not be boring, you've got to incorporate activities. Students that are active, they enjoy the teaching, they digest the teaching, it's going to lead to some change, transformation, and it helps them remember.
Hey, I hear what you're saying because I love activities when I was a student. But activities terrify me as a teacher because they take so much time and I cannot control them. And people start laughing and giggling and chatting. It's like herding cats. End up doing doesn't sometimes doesn't even have anything to do with the lesson itself. And then I have to rush to get through the rest of my content. It just makes everything worse. So what am I supposed to do about that?
All of these are very legitimate concerns, and maybe we've all been in classrooms where that's happened, but I bet we're all remembering activities we did that really helped us. Let's talk about the benefits. Why having some activities mixed in with your teaching and lecturing, why they're important to how they help learners.
Okay. Thank you, Coach Cindy. So that's the end
You're
of our
welcome.
little role play where I was pretending that I don't like activities because I love activities. Now we're going to talk about how activities can be so powerful and why they're worth incorporating into your lessons with adult learners.
The first thing is we want to create a space of active learning for students just to sit, listen to lecture, maybe take notes. That's quite passive. And if I'm honest, when I've been in those situations and I'm like, I don't even know why this teaching is important, I am maybe making out my grocery list or I'm writing an email to somebody and it looks like I'm taking notes, but I'm not. And we've got activities that our students are no longer passive. Now they're actually participating in their learning.
Yeah, we have another video about who should be doing the most work in the classroom. Should it be the teacher or should it be the student? And in that video, we talk about the student is the one who needs to be doing the work, thinking and struggling and, wrestling with ideas and information. And so that doesn't happen, as Cindy said, if you're just sitting there. So activities can be super beneficial because they make the students engage more actively.
One of the big things that happens with an activity is that it helps lock that experience into their brain, into their memory.
Mhm.
And so it's going to help them connect the content, whatever it is that you're teaching. With an activity, their brain is going to pull that up quite easily. I want my students to remember what I taught them. I want them to apply it in their lives. An activity helps them do that a year down the road, 5 years down the road. Awesome. It's worth it to do an activity.
When you engage, you're talking, you're thinking, you're talking to other people, you're building something or creating something. It does just engage so much more of your person that helps you to remember it. Because I've taken so many notes and so many lessons and don't remember any of them, but I absolutely clearly remember building a tower out of newspaper and then the conversation we had about teamwork and different roles. I remember different role plays where we had to come up with a skit and act out something because it felt like it was in real life and it required something of me and just took so much more effort and it's so memorable.
I think it's important too that we understand just how people are learning. There are three basic learning styles, and people are going to be visual, so they learn by seeing, oral, so they learn by listening and talking, or they're kinesthetic, and so they learn by doing things. And actually, everybody's a little of all three. People remember when they do something. That's all the research says that. So if we have an activity and they're doing something,
Mhm.
they're really going to remember.
Engaging more of the senses, the more of yourself that gets like switched on and gets asked to work. And that can really be helpful for the deeper learning that we're looking for. Mhm.
Deeper learning, deeper transformation. There's a lot of great research. We understand how the brain works well. Excellent book, The Other Half of Church, looking at the importance of the right brains. When we think about a lecture, when you're sitting there and you're listening to information, it is engaging your left side of your brain, which is very logical. Language lives there. It's not a bad thing. That's where you stored algebra. actually, the right side of your brain is really important for character development, for community, feeling like this is my tribe, these are my friends, I belong. A lot of our emotions are on the right side of our brain. It actually works a lot faster than the logical left side. And so when we're doing activities, we're actually integrating all of the brain, like both sides are working. And if we're attaching emotions, and if we're having a good experience in the classroom, these are the things that help us remember the lesson and say, I'm going to apply this in my life. Actually, I need to change this area of what I do. It's the right brain that makes that decision. And activities help stimulate both sides. So it's so important that we're not just lecturing to the logical left side of the brain. Let's do more.
Saying about engaging both halves of the brain, we all know that you can have correct information, but without the motivation to change, without the emotional connection, and without understanding how that information could impact you, could impact other people, it just usually can just fall to the ground. Finding some way to make it come alive, which is the goal of activities, is to make the learning come alive and to see how it can then be applied in your own life situation. You end up taking it with you out of the classroom, which is also a huge part of why we're trying to teach people.
Sometimes I have a weird image in my mind of like a lot of content. So just in a lecture form, it's like me eating 3 bananas and I'm stuffing them all in my mouth. But if I don't know why this is important, or I'm just listening, honestly, at the end of that classroom, I'm going to go spit out the bananas. I'm not going to digest them. Digestion, it is a process. It takes time, and activities give us a chance to work with the material in a different way for the students to engage with it. And I think of it like digestion. Most activities they're going to have kind of some creative element or some sharing. And I often think they're fun. When it's fun and relational, again, all of that releases a lot of good chemicals in our brain. We remember those times well, and we're more willing to try something new or apply something in our life if we've done an activity that's helped us with the content.
Yeah, I love that idea about activities drawing on the fun and the relational part. And I think one of my beliefs is that education is most effective in a relational context where there's safety, there's connection, there's trust. And I think we in YWAM have a real unique chance to build those kinds of learning communities where we can also learn from other people. It's not a competition about who's going to be the smartest in the class. We're truly trying to help one another grow and understand. And so like you're saying, when an activity is kind of fun or a little creative and we're talking to other people, it really activates that part of our being, which is really helpful. And then it also makes me think about children and how children learn through play. And I know that children do go to school quite young, and there's a lot of things kids don't know when they first go to school. But think about before they've been to any lecture or any class or any walk through the door of any school, they know how to play and laugh and walk and run and jump and give hugs. And children have learned so many things through simply play and discovery and making mistakes. And I think not being afraid to incorporate some of that in, letting there be delight and enjoyment in learning, because I think learning absolutely should be enjoyable.
Another thing I've seen with activities is that it helps a student process like what was the most meaningful part of what they've heard for them. I was on a seminar, and there was a section of teaching talking about God being the good shepherd and taking care of us in very practical ways. And we had an activity. There was a hidden sheep in the classroom, and we had to go look for the sheep based on Jesus' parable of leaving the 99 and looking for the missing sheep. When it came to the graduation and what did you get out of this seminar, so many people went back to that metaphor of the good shepherd, and it really did. It meant a lot for them. But I know because we went looking for that sheep, that activity helped teach that concept in ways that just listening couldn't do. I love how it helps us remember and summarize and really hang on to the content.
Another thing about activities I think is super powerful for adult learners is it gives space for God to interact with the student in a way that I, as a teacher, have nothing to do with. If my lectures are just, lecture, I'm just talking and reading my PowerPoints and da 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 da, I'm just like, it's a one-way monologue. It's this fire hose that's just coming at the students. They're just like writing notes, doing the thing, and they don't have any space to like let God or even their
Mm.
own thoughts trickle through. Usually I try to find a way to take the students on a walk somewhere, a silent walk. Often they will say that's the best part of the week, not just because they get to go outside and have the fresh air and something that's unique and different, but often something stood out to them. They had an encounter with God that I had nothing to do with, and it stayed with them. So I think a big part of activities is it's making space also for
Mm.
God to be active and to be teaching. And we know that the Holy Spirit is an incredible teacher, but if we never give any space for that to happen, I think we can often miss it.
This is a really important point, and it's something I've had to grow into. For me to allow times of silence, maybe the students are meditating on a passage of scripture, or we're interacting with something. I was so terrified that like they were just going to be bored and go, "Well, that was pointless." I was also shocked and amazed at how like a quiet activity, how much they would hear God, how much they'd hear their own emotions or their own thoughts, and there just hadn't been any time or space for that. And I'm like, oh my gosh, they learned more in that 10 minutes than me talking.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's the skill, and this is the experimentation of a teacher, is figuring out which activity is going to help me achieve my goals for the class, for this topic in this setting. And like you say, sometimes it's fun and playful, sometimes it's quiet and contemplative.
If you're wanting to incorporate more activities into your teaching, but you're like, I don't even know what to do or when to do it, I understand why it's important. We're going to make another video that talks about activities and with some great specific examples and some understanding of like when and how to incorporate them. Some questions for you to think about. First of all, for you, think about yourself as a student. What are activities that you enjoy doing that help you learn and process information?
Second question, as a teacher, what are your fears when it comes to activities? What's getting in the way of you wanting to do activities, or what questions do you have about activities? You can even put them in the comments or send them to us. So our third question would be to talk with your staff team, or if you have a group of students right now, ask them how do they feel about activities? Do they enjoy them? What types do they like? Do a little bit of research to find out the people around you, what they feel and experience about activities.